We all face the challenge of balancing work and life. Today I talk to a friend of mine, Clinton Hoffman. His business is Ambrose Solutions and is all about the about. I chose to speak to Clinton first up because his world was turned upside down 5 years ago because of something a family member did. Not him, but a family member. He's worked hard on himself and his business to get back to where he is today. Hope you enjoy listening to Hoffy. Welcome to Work and Life with EggnHam. Here I chat with people about their work, life away from work, and how they achieve, or if in fact they do achieve, their elusive work-life balance. Today I'm talking to a friend of mine, Clinton Hoffman. Hoffy is an accountant by trade, but self-employed, running the business Ambrose Solutions. Hoffy, how you going?
Yeah, mate, I'm really well, and I think it's a happy birthday time.
Oh, thanks, man. The big
What a
51.
pleasure to share your birthday.
Well, that's it. That's every year goes quicker. The older you get, it goes quicker, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, they're just whizzing by at the moment.
The,
When did we first play cricket against each other? Probably 36 years ago,
something
at
like that.
least. Probably
I'm
40,
I'm
close to 40.
51, so a good 30 years ago.
Yeah, so they've whizzed by like a Shane George fast. A Shane
Shane George
George
quick ball.
to Willie Ross.
That's it, a bouncer. you don't the bouncer you don't even see.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Ambrose Solutions has created everything about Thinkabout, Walkabout, Driveabout, about. The odd man out as if. Here's a chance to talk yourself up, Huffy. What do you do at Ambrose Solutions?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting journey. I was that, I'm a chartered accountant, and I'm very proud of that fact. Studied hard. I think I was going to uni the same time as your sister, I reckon. So, um, and I'll get to the answer to your question, but I'll take a little bit of maybe just a talk about. And so, yeah, grew up in Darwin as you did, and I really wanted to be a PE teacher. Um, and a sports psychologist, and I got the marks to do it. But given the family circumstances, I actually won a scholarship to study accounting law um, at the NT University, or Charles Darwin University,
As it is
back then.
now.
And it was interesting because my first day on the job after graduating, we're in the middle of the recession we had to have. So I was very lucky to have a job. Um, Managers and seniors were getting walked, and chartered accounting firms were running with a partner and a graduate, basically. So it just taught me right from that, right from that sort of early moment to just be count your blessings. So,
Yeah.
and I then went on to, work in the chartered accounting professional service firms for Horwath and then Ernst and Young, and I'm very grateful for the work I did at both. But by the time I was just about 30, um, I just wasn't feeling fulfilled. I was audit, risk, forensics, insolvency, and I suppose I'd elbowed my way into sort of doing training with EY. So I was sort of probably, if we're true to our personality, I was probably itching to be that sports psych PE teacher within a global accounting firm. How does that work? Well, I sort of pushed my way into training and development and that type of stuff. So when me and three others have started Ambrose, we thought we were pretty cool at the time. Accenture had just started up, which was one of the consulting firms, and I think there was $20 million worth of workshops to come up with. Accent on the future became Accenture as one of the consulting firms. So we had a few rounds of beers at the Queensland Cricketers Club, I reckon, and came up with the name Ambrose. Because normally it's it'd be Hoffman, White and Trimboli and Mather and Associates. But we thought we were pretty cool back in the early 2000s, coming up with a brand name for an accounting firm. So, but Ambrose, I tell my mum it was a name after Saint Ambrose, patron saint of the beekeepers. I think it was the honey-tongued preacher. So there's a little bit of rub off on me there.
Oh, it wasn't
But
golf.
mum to this day, so please don't tell her.
Wasn't
He
it
still
golf
thinks
day?
it's named after, St Ambrose. The quickest bowler I ever faced was a gentleman by the name of Curtly Ambrose, and but we actually named it after a style of golf that takes a lot of pressure out of the golf game. It's a corporate event. It's called an Ambrose event, and it's 4-ball best ball. And so we thought with our business Ambrose Solutions with 4 founding partners, we thought it's the best approach to finding business solutions because we had a guy who was very good at financial restructuring. We had another guy who was excellent at corporate, high end sort of corporate deals. We had another one who was a magnificent IT guy, and we had me sort of, probably audit risk training type stuff. So yeah, we kicked that off, and then it was that old adage that when I left EY, I probably had tens of probably let's call it 20 team members, 20 clients. So it felt like I wasn't getting to any of them. So what we thought was, imagine if we just had 5 clients, one for each finger and thumb on our left hand, and we gave them a day a week.
Yeah.
We became the part-time financial director and really, really overserviced them. And that was how the model started. But I think what it gave me starting Ambrose, especially having that sort of chartered accounting background and audit risk, etc., is I was finding that a lot of the failure points in business was someone not knowing about business, very, very high failure rates. And so I suppose where I've got to, and I just really love the work I've done over the last 23, coming up to 24 years in Ambrose, is I always say as a chartered accountant, I'm professionally, morally, ethically, and in fact legally obliged to ensure my client understands my advice. And I grew up in Arnhem Land, in a place called Nhulunbuy on the Gove Peninsula. Yakalla's the Aboriginal community, um, and a beautiful place to grow up. But some of the Aboriginal people I've worked with over the years there, they speak 14 Aboriginal versions of Yolngu Matha or dialects, and then English, they can speak it. But we're seeing literacy levels sort of basically going down over the years. And so I've got a real passion. I think it's because my mum's Ukrainian Dutch immigrant after the Second World War. She came out when she was sort of early 5, 6 years old, Ukrainian mother and a Dutch father. So English was her third learning language. And so growing up with the Aboriginal, the Yolngus up in Arnhem Land, the Yolngu people who struggle with English, I thought, hang on, I've got to use storytelling, pictures, and I'll get my hands going here, EggnHam, but I've got to go a bit above and beyond here because I just can't go and develop a business plan that my end client can't read. And, a lot of my competitors were doing that. And so I think I was probably the first chartered accounting firm in Australia to put a graphic designer on and start to basically develop mats and blended learning models is all my catchphrases now, and digital media and animation and Aboriginal languages or Ukrainian or what have you. Let's really make sure our client, or we do the best, or I do the best to make sure they understand our advice, especially if they're an Aboriginal board member on a multi-million dollar turnover board. Let's make sure that good governance would suggest that the board, elected by the members, is responsible for the stewardship of the organisation, the achievement of the strategic objectives, ensuring it's solvent, ensuring the organisation is compliant, and ensuring they're working on best behalf of the membership. If English is your third learning language as an Aboriginal person from Kalkaringi or Yirrkala, they're really foreign concepts. And the board actually is in charge of the CEO. They direct the CEO what to do, and the CEO then, works with his employees to achieve those objectives. So, that's tough work, but you've got to be focused on it. So back to the abouts is the first program we actually developed was Walkabout, and I was funded by CommBank to work with CommBank and Aboriginal Australians who were going to business for the first time to understand business. So it was really interesting when I at that time, Walkabout was probably a derogatory term, whereas I think my mum's I was born and raised Catholic. My mum's a strong Ukrainian Catholic of origin, and I think JC went for a 40-day walkabout, where on that walkabout he gathered knowledge, skills, resources, and energy. So I applied that back to developing a business literacy program where reading a book wasn't helping. So I thought, hang on, if I'm working with someone, any business person, I want them to understand the business life cycle. So in mainstream terms, we ideate, feasibility, business plan, startup, scaling model through to exit strategy.
Yeah, yeah,
So I mapped that sort of out, and I thought, one of the things I did when I used to audit clients is I'd do like business walkthroughs. Like if I'm trying to understand, Qantas maintenance process, you walk through the business to understand it. Or if you're looking at, Coca-Cola bottlers, inventory system, you walk through it. You're gaining knowledge, etc. As an auditor, you had to be, you got to look at a lot of different businesses and walking through them and understanding them, asking the questions. You got the optics on it. You got the visuals. So with Walkabout Your Business, I just also wanted to integrate up. If I put these glasses on, everyone says I look like the man from Up. So I wanted to, basically saying when we take you through and educate you along the business processes and the life cycles, we're building your capacity, we're lifting you up, which worked very well with my Aboriginal, cohorts that I was working with. So ideation became dream it up. Feasibility was grow it up. The business planning process was plan it up, go figure. Then start it up, build it up, and wrap it up. So I then built a program where the resources you needed at the time of your business life cycle were visually orientated towards where you were. So that was basically Walkabout, and then I Walk About Your Business, and then I applied the same logic to Think About Your Decision, where I was working with governance. So, and we have some. I was probably doing stuff 15 years ahead of its time, and the grey hair's now on the head. But I'm working with resource companies now around free and prior informed consent, whereby as a result of some very national news around poor handling of corporate Aboriginal affairs by your Rio Tintos, your Telstras, KPMGs, etc., is we have to ensure, and it goes back to what I said as a chartered accountant, you have to ensure you get free and prior informed consent. So in this case, it might be a native title holder organisation and a resource company is trying to do an Indigenous land use agreement. You have to demonstrate that you've taken that native title group who might have poor levels of numeracy, literacy, culturally and linguistically diverse, but that agreement they've signed on behalf of the future generations and those past with a resource company, that in this case the Aboriginal client really understands what they're signing, both the legalities and the financial benefits. And understanding financial benefits is a very difficult thing in mainstream Australia. I put it out there how many people really understand their investments in their super funds.
yeah. Well,
Or they just
exactly.
have it rolled over. So Thinkabout it's now become really timely because what I wanted to do was build a governance program that enabled volunteer sporting clubs, not-for-profits, Aboriginal corporations, those that couldn't afford to do the AICD course. I joint ventured with a lady called a magnificent expert in this field, Jennifer Robertson, who's with Board Matters, and she has long been a presenter for the AICD. And I said, Jen, I've got this program called Think About Your Decision, and it starts off with an animation, the 10 reasons boards fail. And we've built, 3 very highly educational, part animation, part Jenny Robinson video, helping boards, especially volunteer boards, and not to fail. So that was the Think About Your Decision. Driveabout, where, it's been a long, 7 years of basically saying that, kids aren't reading the road rule book. They're practicing a test online. I did it. It wasn't online in 1987 when I did it. The 3 A4 piece of paper with the answers to the 3 rotating questions were being passed around Dripstone High School. And I think I still failed the first time. I got the wrong sheet. So people learn the test, and we've got 3.5 people dying on Australian roads. It might just start with the fact that when we never read the road rule book, we never read it again, we're lacking that education piece. So I created Driveabout, which is basically an animation with animated instructional animation, high-end competency-based instructional animation of the road rule book. So if you just look at a static picture of a roundabout, there's another about.
Exactly.
How much can you learn by looking at a static picture? If you're watching an instructional animation explaining roundabouts or hook turns in your neck of the woods,
In
EggnHam,
Melbourne, yeah, exactly.
I would go to Melbourne all the time. I would never hire a car because I was so worried about these hook turns until we get involved with animating. It's like, oh, well, they're because of trams. And, well, I think there's only 3 left in Melbourne anyway. But until you're educated on matters, my wife always says, you only know what you know. So I think all the abouts, and then the if guide, I couldn't fit about an if, so maybe it's the if guides, which you've been very close to and you've been a big supporter of. We took Kipling's poem If,
Yeah.
and we animated it. We had Jack Thompson do a beautiful voiceover of it. It's gone hundreds of thousands of times around the internet. But Rudyard Kipling left off the how. How do I keep my head? How do I deal with lies? How do I get a work-life balance? No, that's our new line. That's the 13th line.
Yeah.
But working with my team to create expert content from a mental wellness coach who I've used for many, many years, doing little videos on how. So I suppose what you're seeing is a real want to get education to the people that need it in ways they can understand it. Okay, so if that is putting in Walpuri for someone out near Larger Manu in, where little things, big things grew, I think more and more now tech is allowing us to close the education gap. And, our education system based on reading and writing was the last system to be disrupted, if you look at it. I think you and I have had this conversation before, Eggs and Ham, but COVID, the School of the Air back in, Paddy Underwood, a good mate of mine from Riverine Station, my age, but he went through School of the Air. That was a disruption to the education system back then through technology, in this case a phone. So, we're seeing it in India with the Khan Academy, where free resources, open source resources on the internet, and someone, slumdog millionaire can educate themselves, So, so I'd probably talk, I'd give you a bit of a flyabout then in terms of what we do, but I thought what we do is very innovative. I'm proud of it. I've funded a lot of it myself to get it to minimum viable product, to hopefully have corporate Australia jump on or what have you. But I'm now, 15 years ago, Dave, I was getting people sort of going, what's this madman up to? And why isn't he back working in New York with the accounting firms? Why is he out in the middle of Maningrida? Why is he putting driver's license stuff in Aboriginal language? And for me, 53 now, I'm really happy with what I've done, but also the market now understanding that there's a duty of care, there's legalities, there's a whole lot around making sure we educate people, no matter what their background is. So, does that sort of
It does.
give you a bit of an overview?
It does, Paul. It's finance meets education, isn't it? So it is. It's, as you say, if you were to go into an accountant's office or a lawyer's office, or speak to someone about the duty of care a board has over their employees, you're going to get so much spin and so much. You're just not going to understand. So what you're actually saying is keep it simple. Keep it simple. Make it so people can easily understand it. Is that?
Yep, yep. And I think I just might get you to put that microphone. We'll do a bit of mic about. Be close to your lips there, mate. Just make love to it. But yeah, we often say the complexity is in the simplicity.
Yeah.
So someone looks at our animation and goes, "Oh, mate, well, it's just animation." No, it's not. The production process we go through to basically prepare education-based animation. So it's competencies. It's We basically film in video first. The animation's real veneer, which gives us the ability to put it into different languages and make it really sticky. So I can create a car crash in animation type stuff. And our animation team are very bespoke. So AI is not replacing them anytime soon. Might be 3 years, might be 10 years, but it's not anytime soon to get that real focus on, the stickiness that is required to watch. And look, what we're probably talking 45 years later, and I still have a visual memory of Slip, Slop, Slap in my head. I still have a visual memory of Don't Be a Norm.
I was going to say the old Norm ad sitting there.
And also Don't Be a Litterbug. That educated our generation. And they said the litter rates dropped. Cancer rates dropped in our generation because of these
Slip, Slop, Slap
apps. And it's not politically correct to say don't be a norm anymore, but I know we learned very early on to keep moving.
Yeah.
So which is key.
The reason I chose you to be the first guest is because of IF. Give everyone a quick overview of what IF is.
Yeah, look, IF. Hey, look, something I prepared earlier.
Casually had it on your desk.
IF was a response to losing a very dear friend, and he took his own life 2016, 23 June. So we're coming up to the anniversary, and it never gets any easier. Left a beautiful wife and 2 magnificent sons behind. And I always say he was the last bloke you would expect. A big Queensland Maroon supporter, and I rang him the night before it happened, and I said, "How are you going to go tonight?" It was State of Origin 1, and I think it's State of Origin 1 tonight. So there's a little bit of serendipity. And he said, "Yeah, mate, Hoff, we'll nail it." And Queensland won. And then I got the tragic news delivered the next day that he'd taken his life the following day. So look, it's just one of those ones where I'd been working with a great therapist called Barry Hogg since I was about 33, 34. He sort of out of Camp Eden on the coast is where I met him first at a retreat where I was lucky enough to be able to afford to take myself to a health retreat when I was experiencing some really difficult times. And Barry was just an amazing, like the uncle, just helped me through things, and I could talk to him about anything. And he helped me pull my head in at different points in time, or really stick it out at other points in time, and just manage my shadow, and help me get into as much light as possible, and all the bravado that's Clint Hoffman on the sporting field or in business, etc. Deep down, as a little real vulnerable 9-year-old kid that still pops his head up every now and again, type of stuff. So anyway, and a lot of my mates, I was captain of footy teams and cricket teams and a leader in workplace, would say, "What do you talk to Barry about?" I say, "Well, 10 minutes about eggs and ham, 15 minutes about Reevesy, et cetera, et cetera." And Aussie bloke, we always have a joke. I said, "Look, he helps me order my thoughts. He helps me be a better bloke. He helps me not beat myself up. Helps me get out of bed sometimes." One time I sort of remember ringing him on a Tuesday or Thursday after a pretty high-flying weekend, and the 2 hours I had with him on that Tuesday night, on that tragic Tuesday night, back to this little situation, not to do with Twinkles, he helped me breathe, helped me make a plan to get out of that shadow. He held me accountable to it, all that type of stuff that a good therapist does. So, and Twinkles was one of the blokes who used to ask me about, "So, how's Barry going? What do you talk to Barry about?" So, you can never reverse anything, and things happen, out of disaster, triumph can come. And when I often say, when I went to the funeral, there was 600 beautiful men there, friends of Twinkles, and a lot of them big burly Queenslanders, at the golf club wake, drinking their beers and shedding tears, and coming up to me and just sort of introducing themselves. And I'd read the eulogy, and I just thought, geez, if I can create a survival guide for business using digital media, using digital ebooks, God, I've got to put Barry onto my phone. Barry can't see those 600 blokes, you know. So Barry's a beautiful bloke. He did it for free and with nothing expected. And we had him a week in a film studio, had content creators, and what we took Kipling's poem "If," which is basically 12 universal ifs. You know, if you can keep your head, if you can deal with triumph and disaster, if you cannot make dreams your master, if. I wasn't going to read it EggnHam because Jack Thompson does too good a job of doing
Oh,
it.
that's all right.
I just thought, what a beautiful framework. So if we animate the poem, and we did, and we got Jack Thompson to read the voiceover, Barry then did the how videos. How do I keep my head? How do I deal with lies? How do I? And then, you know, we basically packaged it up on an ebook. We published on Kindle, Amazon. But we've given so many copies away for free, and that's the mission of the IF project, is to make all these. You know, we'd love corporate sponsors to jump on board and make it a lot easier, and which happens. But let's just get resources into men's hands who, you know, Australia's an interesting place, you know. How you going, Jacko?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, not bad. Black dog's chasing me. Black dog's chasing you. Has he caught you? Not yet. I'm just keeping in front of him, mate. Keeping in front of him, mate. So anyway, Jacko, just give us a yell if you can, mate. We'll go, you know, yeah, no worries. Good speaking to you, Hoff. Good speaking to you, mate. Keep doing what you're doing. You know, and that's the vernacular of the Aussie blokes, historically speaking.
She'll be right. I'm all
my,
right.
my era, you know, definitely your era. And so just to have these, you know, the most beautiful thing is Jeff Todd, one of my favourite artists on the planet. He illustrated each of the 12 chapters, and then Michael Marr, a magnificent Tennant Creek vocalist from Worldfly, he's sung the world over, chose songs for each chapter. You know, because Eggs, in some of my toughest times, I lived in a beautiful, still got a beautiful apartment overlooking Darwin Harbour. You know, art everywhere, beautiful couches, bloody B&O sound systems, you know, everything. You know, everything I ever wanted as a bloody household kid from Wallagi, I was able to put into that beautiful apartment. I call it the Sea Cave, you know. Yeah. And my little dog Mimi is a little Yorkie, and she's on her last legs now, but gee, she's given me 14 years of good service. And Mimi means spirit in Kakadu language, Gunjagmi. Anyway, you know, I used to sit there sometimes, and for a bloke that had everything going for him, you know, I'd have my, you know, Jung says we're in our shadow 10% of our time. That's 36.5 days a year, you know, tell the accountant in me. So anyway, I'd sit there and I'd sort of look around. I'd see my beautiful art, put some Worldfly on the B&O, and sit back, and I'd just go, mate, what are you? And I'd start counting blessings. And then little Mimi would come up and she'd wag her tail and go, mate, are we walking? And so my choice probably at that point was to take her for a walk, or we'd head on down to the Kavanagh, the pub on Kavanagh Street, and go and have a couple of beers with old mates and tell them how good I was, all that type of stuff, which could lead to a cycle of a hangover the next day and beating myself up even more, and, you know, become cyclical. And we all face addictions of different sorts. So anyway, I'd go lucky. I used to more often than not choose to take the little dog for a walk down, you know. She'd have little bows in her hair and Louis Vuitton collars and all this type of stuff. And I'd have my footy mates going, fuck. Typical Hoffy or the footy foes would be like, oh, mate, look at this guy, we told you. Anyway, walk it past the cruise ship terminal. There'd be cruise ship passengers saying g'day, everyone stopping to talk to the dog. A little bit of social interaction, a bit of dopamine. You know, I'd get back to my apartment. I've got a rowing machine. I've been an avid water rower. It's a bit like a vegan. How do you know someone's a vegan? They tell you. How do you know someone's a water rower? They tell you. That's Jack Thompson there I'm channeling. And then I'd row for half an hour. Endorphins, dopamine, you know, oxygen in the blood. Felt $1 million.
Yeah.
So I sort of tried to create that with how I produced the digital ebook for IF. I'm no mental health expert. You know, Barry's a lot more of that. He's not a clinical psych either. He's a mental wellbeing therapist. So we're very careful with our words around mental health. But I did know that music, art, a bit of storytelling, bit of help from Barry, and it was behaviour change. Or one helped to change behaviour, but it was also it just helped to keep you on track type stuff. So that was the thought behind the IF Guide. We built it out in 3 months, no funding. I funded it, and then Jeff Todd, we had a massive launch, and we auctioned off his paintings, and I think from memory we got about 60 grand for the 12 paintings, magnificent paintings, and a lovely gentleman bought them for his boardroom, and we're able to give half the funds to Jeff for painting it and half the funds to Barry.
Oh, that's brilliant, isn't it? Yeah.
Just thanking him. So, people say, "Oh, is it for charity?" I said, "Man, look, at some point I'll spend the money, or EY, my mates at EY will help me set up as a charity. But at the moment, I call it a social enterprise where I've just been underfunded, and every now and again get some sponsorship or hold a lunch. But just the whole trick is getting this book out there. So now when we join forces with the Gabba Troopers now.
Yeah.
Michael Kaswich is a big ambassador for us here, one of our great mate, and played a bit of cricket back in under-19s, Australian under-19s with him. But last year, I think we had about 600 Gabba Troopers, 100 of them pink, but all of them with a heart with the QR code to our app for free.
Yeah.
And we're on national TV, and Gilchrist is talking about us, and myself and Casper got interviewed, and it's just going to keep rolling. And we've just done a deal with Spirit of Cricket, over 50s cricket group, who are doing, Anthony Telfer doing great stuff with them. We've met them through the Nelson twins, and they've now chosen IF as what they want to promote through the, the Mildura World T20 over 50s cricket comp. So it's just organic, and it's just that beautiful nature of, every now and again when I take a breath and stop and go, hey, we're doing some good stuff.
Yeah.
And you and I have had some great chats around it, eggs over the years, and
Well,
and you're one of those blokes that can really, you've got a lot of emotional and spiritual intelligence. You've got that in spades anyway, so
it's
we have some lovely conversations around some of the tougher things to have conversation around.
It's such a simple solution, really.
Yep.
I mean,
you're gonna have to speak up a bit, mate. I can't hear you.
As
you
you
put the phone on.
as you've said, it's the if poem. It actually resonates with someone. There's generally a question in there that will resonate with someone.
Yes.
And then you've taken it and you've, as you say, you've put the how around the questions, and then you've added a wheel of life to it. So it's a simple solution, and it's not replacing a psychologist, as you'd say, or anything like that. But it is actually, as you say, it's a well-being guide. So
yes,
it's something that you can use to keep yourself in check a little bit.
Yep.
And just make
and
sure
that's a simple one, Eggs, and it ties into what we're talking about today, in terms of work-life balance. But for me, that wheel of life, it's not, that's used in management and leadership programs that I was doing with Ernst & Young.
Yeah.
So there's different variations. We've created our wheel of life for the IF project. But the beauty there is, if I just ask you, are you okay? You can give me a yes, no, maybe. But if I ask you how your wheel of life's going, and I'm not just because we're mates and I've taken you through it, I've got mates now going onto the IF app and they're doing their wheel of life randomly, screenshotting it and sending it to a bunch of mates because it creates a conversation. And, in terms of, this is the 5-year anniversary of, some massive, massive trauma that I and many people faced this day 5 years ago. Many people, horrific stuff that affected a community, and it was unfathomable. But the blessing out of that was I started seeing a clinical psychologist exactly 3 days later. And I've probably hit the century with how many times I've had sessions with her in the last 5 years. And I call her Arnie Carmel. She's one of Australia's leading, she's a clinical psychologist, one of Australia's leading trauma brain specialists.
Yep.
So for trauma. And I'm clinically diagnosed with complex PTSD for events that have happened at earlier stages in my life. But every time before I meet her, I just go onto the Wheel of Life on the app and I screenshot it because we don't hold any data on the app.
Yeah.
Not interested. And that sets up our clinical psych session. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And just it's just a really good first up tool for blokes to use. I reckon I can save the world with the Wheel of Life.
Well,
One of those, there's a nice big segue. Is one of those is fun, play, and relaxation.
Yeah, because as what you've done in it, you've put. I'm not sure of all the other versions, but you've just put. It's just making sure you're living the life the way you want to live it. It's basically saying, look at your values, look at your diet, your sleep, your relationships, everything.
Yep. It's a for me, who is always highly competitive. I had to win everything, but everyone loved me.
Yeah.
Which is difficult, right? In Australia, if you're winning everything, not everyone loves you. So it's called the salesman's bow tie. And there's a magnificent tool that EY put me through, the leadership styles inventory.
Yeah.
And I came out, it's the blue behaviours are really good leadership qualities like humanistic and encouraging, results focus. Red behaviours are more power based, so probably not the best leadership styles, but some do use them very well. And one of those was high competitiveness.
Yeah.
And over the other side was green, more the passive leadership behaviours, and one of them was wanting acceptance. And so when I went through this, this process, I came out with highly competitive and wants acceptance, wants everyone to love him, basically. That doesn't work too well. So, whereas what this probably preaches is concentrate on win your race, right?
Yeah.
Concentrate on strong leadership, results focused, mission orientation, etc. And who cares what the people in the grandstand think? Great mate of mine once told me a saying his father taught him, and it's basically 3 types of people in this world: those pushing their little trolley up the hill, and those on the sideline watching, and those other ones are throwing banana peels under the wheel.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Which one are you?" type stuff. So pushing that cart up the hill. What I found interesting is about 6 months after this particular event, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. My beautiful girlfriend at the time, Martina, her mum sadly passed away just a couple of years ago. Was the longest living recipient of an Aboriginal woman, longest living recipient of a kidney transplant over 15 or 20 years. So Martina, before her mother got the kidney transplant, used to dialyse her mother at home.
Yeah.
One of the first people to do so. So Martina saw the warning signs not the warning signs, the actual signs of type 2 diabetes. And, I was in shock because I've always been fit, played sport, etc. But the stress took its toll. Cortisol is a very interesting hormone. They say stress kills, and high levels of cortisol can affect sugar levels, affect pancreas, affect, the flight and fight type of reaction. So given the monumental stress that I'd gone through, I then had a situation to manage. So the way I did it is there hasn't been too many days at all. I could probably count on 2 hands in the last 4.5 years. I haven't walked 10,000 steps.
Yeah.
So that was something that was in my control. But I had a beautiful partner that allowed me to go and do that walk. So if I got home from work at 6, she would say, "Get on your walk," and she would prepare dinner. She would make sure the dogs are walked. She would do all those things to support me in my 10,000 steps.
Yeah.
So very lucky man in respect of that. And then, on top of that, changes to diet, etc., etc. But when I look at the Wheel of Life, one of the spokes I was able, my physical fitness, or sorry, my physical activity, I was able to give a 10, or sorry, 9.
Yeah.
That's Hoffy always adding GST. So a 9, and then my weight body shape started to change just because I was walking. And I've been, football player, we had a lot of time in the gym, etc., etc. But I started getting my endorphins and my dopamine hits from 10,000 steps.
Yeah.
Go figure. Not winning premierships for the mighty uni rats, or scoring hundreds for the Darwin Career Club or some district career club. None of that. Just getting that walk. So just something that's in your control. So, but then had positive effects. Now the big thing with my walk, and Barry will tell you, is walking is a left and right motion, as we know, and it helps recalibrate the brain, the left and right sides, because you're not going to get that from bench press.
No.
You'll get it from walking type stuff. So, the mental health aspects from walking, so they're those little changes that can start to have a real positive impact around the whole wheel of life. So, and the last year or two have been really busy work-wise. It's a bit of a check. How's my fun, play, and relaxation going?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
And I think that's that work-life balance we're here to talk about. And but it's a real nod to go, hey, Clint, if you keep working your ass off, um, you're not going to be the best bloke to be around. With my wife of 2, coming up to 2 years this year in September. You've got to find that balance. And I think for many years, Egg, to develop what I've developed, it's just been a work focus, and I've loved it, working in South Africa, working in America, going to Harvard, it's been great. But now just trying to enjoy the dogs playing, or my, hanging out with my deadly daughter, or having just a good belly laugh with my wife, and next week I'm so happy I've managed to clear some time to go up to the Whit Sundays with a group of guys who I met through the IF project, and we're kayaking in the Whit Sundays. How blessed am I to be able to do that?
Yeah, well, that's right.
But can I afford it? Can I afford the time? Can I afford the money? The little self-doubter comes in. Clint, are you fit enough to kayak 20 Ks a day? All this type of stuff. But it's like, you know what? There's finally been some space to be created, and yeah. So that work-life balance is it's such a tough one with the pressure we're all under. We live in a 24-hour news cycle. We're tied to our mobile phones, our Apple Watches, our
well, that's right.
Everything that sort of goes on, our Netflix, our all this type of stuff. And I think just having some cognizance that around that fun, play, relaxation, and everyone's different. All personalities are different.
Yeah.
What that means to each individual. So, and I've been, loving watching you with your bike riding, and and your body shapes change for the positive in the last few years. So you've done a bit of hard work there too.
Yeah, well, it's come back a bit, but
make love to that microphone. That's better.
Well, yeah, it is. It's one of those things, and as you say, it's a little bit like this. There's the ups and the downs, and I know the last 12 months I've been lazy. So
yes.
So stuff that you've put actually the weight that you actually have lost, you start putting back on again, and you're sitting there going, oh, and it is little reminders, and you're sitting there going, and you're not feeling as good as you were, and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Yep. So
it's tough, and we're our harshest critics ourselves.
Yeah.
Like I've had some mornings. The Our Father, for whatever reason, is my meditational prayer, and I have mornings where I just say that over a few times, and I tell myself I'm a good bloke before getting out of bed.
Yeah.
When the world's against you, last thing you need is yourself having a crack at you. And I think that's the that battle against your own mind, and saying, no, hang on, little guy on my shoulder, I'm doing all right. Just get out. I'm allowed to have a cheat. I'm allowed to have a cheat day.
Yeah, exactly.
No. So yeah, it's constant.
So the next question I've got for you is, obviously you animate everything, and you've pretty well answered this, but the animation, is that because you just want to go in there and it's not as confronting to people? Like you're talking about Thinkabout, you're talking about governance and everything like that. So it's a little bit of it breaks the barriers a little bit when you're going and presenting to business owners or boards or
Yeah, it's so I studied before it was trendy NLP, neuro linguistic programming, which is one step up from start. It's a dark science. Anthony Robbins is an NLP trained professional, etc. It's about anchoring. There's a lot of different, you know, mumbo jumbo and jargon, but what I got out of it was anchor points in education.
yeah.
So I try and keep things 5 plus or minus 7. Having said that, 10 reasons boards fail. There's 10 commandments. 10 reasons businesses fail. 12 ifs. Just try and keep that framework for a start into non-complex and not 72 points in the index of the road user's handbook. So I try and really clear up the GUI, the general user interface. How do I access this education? Why am I watching this? Well, we don't want your business to fail, or we don't want your board to fail, type stuff. And I thought, and I mentioned earlier, those 3 animations that have just really imprinted my life: Don't Be a Norm, Don't Be a Littlebug, and Slip, Slop, Slap. But more specifically, if you get it right, it's easy to then put in language.
Yeah.
I'm not creating a Bruce Lee movie of, you want to fight me, egg? See what I did there?
Yeah.
But also, it's just a beautiful medium to work within. So, the IF project started off with me with little stick figures working with my animation team saying, I reckon this is Everest being climbed by, Edmund Hillary. This boat crashes into the, and it's me with these little stick figures trying to bring metaphor to bring the IF poem to life, and it didn't need much help because it brings itself to life anyway. But I must jest here, because growing up in Nhulunbuy or Gove in the 70s, we didn't have TV. It was radio, at the very most.
Yeah.
And Darwin was a big city, a long way away. But coming from South Australia, I was born in Adelaide. Our relatives are in South Australia. Mum's from the Penola, Dad's from the sort of Riverland area. So we've got the sort of Barossa covered and the Coonawarra covered. One of my favourite hobbies.
Yeah.
But when we used to go down and visit the relatives, there was the TV one, but there was these cartoon channels on channel, on the Saturday morning cartoon show.
Yeah.
And I'd just be spellbound going. So I think that's where I really got it from, Eggs, is a childhood of missing out.
Love of
cartoons.
love of cartoons.
So there's but no, it's a beautiful medium to work with. And look, I've just produced, we're pretty close on the second book. It's sort of a series coming out of the tragedy of 5 years ago, but Jeff Todd has helped me illustrate the one that unpacks my brother's life. And it's 17 chapters. And we've used a black dog, for the mental health metaphor. And we've illustrated using a black dog. And it was almost art therapy, using a magnificent artist to work through a lot of compounding issues that I wanted to unpack.
Yeah.
And then his wife, for 6 months, we've been working on a children's storybook called Mimi and Mukoi.
Your dog names?
That's my 2 dogs, and the catch of the book is that these little dogs, and I mentioned a bit earlier about Mimi taking me, come on, Dad, let's go for the walk, they were therapy dogs for me. And a lot of Australian men, have their little dog or big dog or their best friend. Come on, Elsie, we're going for a walk. The sheepdog, and so these two little bundles of joy. So the book, I'll just give it away on Eggs and Ham's podcast here. But the rub of the book is that I actually had my dogs officially as therapy dogs a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But when I got the officialdom, the psych works with the vet, works with the breeder, is I realised they've always been my therapy dogs, So, so the point of this story is Jeff Todd has magnificently illustrated the If Guide, but he's helped me on this project called My Brother Ben, and the paintings are amazing.
Yeah.
And then his wife, Jeanette Lucas, is her artist name, has produced these amazing, illustrations illustrating this children's storybook that's written for adults.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So that type of beautiful illustration, and maybe it was growing up with Aboriginal people in Arnhem Land where they told their story through art. I love your eggs and ham motif because it sums up. You could write a book on why you chose that, but having these two artists brilliantly illustrate these two different projects is I'll work with my animation team and am doing it to just animate their illustrations just a little bit.
Yeah.
And that brings them to life. And, I was looking to have the Mimi Mukoi in third person, hopefully get Jack Thompson to read that, but we've gone with first person, so it'll be my voiceover and the digitizing it. So, but yeah, so that's, it's just, if we're just reading a book, and if we can't read a book, we've got a problem, but if we're just reading a book, we're missing out so many of the multimodal abilities to educate.
Yeah. And I suppose one of the things about reading a book, though, is you actually get you get a picture of what's actually happening in the book in your own mind, and and that's probably one of the beauties of reading a book, as you say, if you can read a book, if you're lucky enough to be able to read. So
I'll just give one of my favourite examples from the If Guide, and I'll just hold it up and hopefully. There's your wheel of life.
Yep.
But on the first chapter, Keeping Ahead, there's a beautiful painting by Jeff. Which way I'm going? That way. Very Da Vinci. Now, it's a bare-breasted woman there, so maybe that's probably why I've never got any government funding and don't want it. Because if I just hold that up again, you'll see that guy being unbalanced in a sphere.
Yep.
And I had a good mate of mine, and I've done it. I'm guilty of this. Bloody hell, the missus has given me the absolute irrits, Oh, God, she's this, she's that, she's done this, she's done that, blah, blah, blah. And a couple of years ago, I had a mate, and I was in a good place, and he sort of came to me, he wasn't in a good place. And it was all blame, denial, justification. There was no personal responsibility to basically balance up that beam. He was blaming it on the person holding it, But I just put it to him. I said, hey, brother, do you reckon if your wheel of life was balanced, you'd be able to be knocked over so easily? What do you mean? And I said, well, I reckon last month you've been living it pretty large and you went to, such and such an event. You've come back and the wife was having to look after the kids and what have you. And maybe you're a little bit shell-shocked from that event you went to. Maybe you went a bit hard. And in the meantime, she was left holding the kids. And you're coming back to a little bit of resentment. You come back to a little bit of... But, mate, if you've got your act together, if you're balanced, it's very hard for someone else to knock you off balance. See how powerful that painting is?
Yeah.
Because we all, as blokes, we all love to blame the women or someone or our partners, But if you're doing all you can to be the best bloke you can be, and believe me, at different times I've faltered, I've fallen right off that, and I've come out with blame, justification, and denial. So there's no perfection in what I'm saying at all. But in my lived experiences, if I'm going well in my finances, my walking, my my family, if I've got my spokes not buckled, and I'm balanced, I can balance that beam a lot more. Does that make sense, Eggs?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And then that's just an example of that. I could speak for ages about that painting that Jeff Todd did.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and our Aboriginal brothers, that's how they look at that painting on the wall, you know.
and it's as you say, it's just about being able to self-reflect, as you say.
Yes.
Self-reflect, look at yourself and go, is it really their fault? Am I unhappy because of them, or am I unhappy because of myself? You know, is it
And it's probably a good way to.
and what is it? What is it that's actually making me unhappy?
Yeah.
You know?
And look, you know, we've probably got to wind it up. I'll probably talk your ears off, Eggs, but cognizance is such a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, cognizance. And look, my wife will tell you, I will have little mad moments that go for about 35 seconds. And I feel like I'm that troubled 9-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm incoherent. I'm almost bubbling, and the trauma drain's kicked. I've been triggered or something, or I'm exhausted, or I'm overwhelmed. But I suppose the work I've done over the years, I've got this ability to reflect very quickly and back up the truck very quickly, if that makes sense. That's just through training, you know. But I'm horrified sometimes for that little 35-second outburst, you know. So I've got to forgive myself for it. I've got to, try and decrease the frequency and the intensity of that happening again. But the cognizance, the cognizance that patterns are hard to break, and sometimes that little 9-year-old just, when I'm tired, when I'm stressed, when I'm triggered, can come out.
Yeah.
You know, it's no excuse, but I'm cognizant, and me and my wife have some catchphrases, like she'll say, well, maybe you'd need to take a couple of sausages off the barbie, because Auntie Carmel, and this is good for the listeners, she talks about the trauma truck.
Oh, okay.
And she basically said it's like a truck's going, truck's fine on the flat, but the moment it starts experiencing trauma, someone with PTSD, and it's like going up a hill and more load being put up on it, so it starts chugging and spluttering and it almost
struggles to get up the
stall.
hill. Yeah.
So it needs to take load off, right? Needs to take load off. Has to have good fuel too. We've added to that analogy. But then suddenly got the ability to keep going up and get back on the flat. It's the same with trauma brain. The more and more goes into it. So a lot of times when I have my sessions, and they're getting longer and longer between. So I think a couple of months now between my sessions, it feels like when I work with my clinical psych, I'm emptying the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
And it's clearing out all that, and the bag goes, and all of a sudden the suction's back there.
Yeah.
And that's probably a really good point to end on, Eggs, in terms of just that cognizance. You've got to know that bag's full,
No,
or there's too many sausages on the barbie, or the trauma track has to have stuff taken off.
Yeah.
And the best thing is that your closest friends, your wife, your partner, it's good that they know it as well, because that's where true support comes from.
Yeah.
That's where true support comes from, is when you've actually can tell them that you've got a broken leg.
No, well, exactly. You're not hiding stuff.
Yep.
Stuff. So
Yep.
it's open, honest communication.
Yes.
And
Yep.
Going from there. A couple of quick questions. We've been going on for a little while, but
yep.
Okay, accountant by trade, self-employed. Self-employment isn't for everyone. What do you think is good for, or what do you think makes a person good for being self-employed? Because
look, it's a really, really good question. I often ask myself that, especially when I'm going for a loan. I've got a 24-year-old business just about, and the bank still looks at me as a startup.
Yeah,
I've got trading history. I've got what they self-employed. You go in they'd much rather lend to you who's on a good salary with stable employment. So you've then got the tax office. You're a collector of taxes and keeping up to date with all that. I think I'm in my own business because I'm probably unemployable,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So, so I've probably elbowed my way into a way where I've got a number of clients that I love working with. I won't take on a client I don't want to work with. I've been into some tough situations when I was an employee. I didn't get on with the boss or the manager or what have you, and I just had to sort of bite my lip. Um, so yeah, it's definitely not for everyone. Definitely not for everyone. Um, I think over the last 10 years, I've seen this real movement of entrepreneurs and be an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur.
Be your
And
own
I remember
boss.
sitting down with
Be
John Cure, who
self-employed.
owns Char Restaurant in Brisbane. Probably 14 years ago, I had lunch with him on World Entrepreneur Day. But the word wasn't even mentioned in Australia because of the likes of Christopher Skase and Alan Bond in the 80s.
Yeah.
So this entrepreneur is a real last 10 years thing of now it's dangerous because everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Whew, it's tough. I say, every morning I wake up with a SWOT analysis in my head and a cash flow in my stomach, and it creates an entrepreneurial anxiety, And at Harvard Business School, they say, "No, Clint, that's the Harvard fire in the belly." I'm going, "No, it's not. It's an anxiety."
Yeah. It's figuring out where
it's
the bills are going to be paid for.
Yeah. So the SWOT, what's my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats? Every morning that's in my head. How can I limit my weaknesses, take advantage of the opportunities, stay away from the threats, and use my strengths? And then the cash flow. There's always something to spend money on. There's always extra business expenses you've never had in your budget.
Yeah.
And then the poor buggers with COVID hitting. If I look at the million of business plans I did before COVID, none of them had as a threat.
Work.
Virus closes down the world.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
So look, it's not for everyone, and it's a real. It's not for the faint-hearted, and it's a bit like swimming. Don't jump in the swimming pool unless you can swim.
Yeah.
And if that means you've practiced with floaties first, that's not a bad idea.
No.
Because I've seen some very distressed people in business who have, probably in hindsight should have stayed as employees.
Good at what they were doing, but not good as the boss. Yeah.
Yep.
Everyone's always. You can always look at people. Can always bag a boss. Look at a boss and go, they don't know what they're doing. I could do better. But put them in the situation where they've got to pay the bills, make the decision, and they go to water.
You make good point. Out of all my, I've probably had 150 staff work for me over the years. I hope 40 of those think I was a good boss. There's a lot of it's tough, right? It's tough, and no matter how many management leadership courses I did, my true personality flows through, which is stubborn. There's a bit of my way or the highway. Hey, I'm the boss. That stuff's come out of my mouth as a leader. Not proud of it, not proud of it at all, but it is what it is.
And it is, as you say, it's hard. It's your baby. At the end of the day, it's your baby, and it's like, well, hold on.
You still got to be good to people, and I just hope I've tried to be the best I can be.
Okay, so we can't be all work and play. How important? And you've answered this. How important is time away from work?
Look, it's really important. I'm lucky my wife's my best friend.
Yeah.
So she's also an entrepreneur. She's been in her own startups for 3 years, and she's been working her guts out with very little support from anyone else. And she's my best mate, and we've known each other for 40 years. So it's interesting, I've had a lot of mates in my life, really good mates, and you being one of them, cricket teams, footy teams. But just getting time away with her is so important. And it's not, oh, mate, you spend so much time with your missus. No, at this stage of our life, we both like the same music. We like going for a walk, or, she just loves fishing. She was caught some of the biggest barramundi ever in the territory's history. Forget the $1 million barra. Martina, the wife's caught the 1.4 metre barra. She'll show you a photo where it's taller than her when she caught it. But, we're finally going back to Bali in July together, to where we had our sort of first probably piqued an interest in each other. So And I think the daughter, my deadly daughter, she's got a great dad who still lives in Darwin, and she goes up there in school hellos. But just having, we call her deadly daughter. She calls me deadly dad. I'm not a biological father, but just hanging out with her and trying to have some laughs. But she's 13 going on 31. So, yeah, me and mum, we say we're those uncool parents. We'll do our dances and, all that type of stuff. But just having a laugh. So I think the relaxation through trying to be, with the wife, with my two little beautiful dogs, with my deadly daughter, but, next week up doing some kayaking, you know, uh, doing my walks every day. So, and just counting blessings is the big one for me. Counting blessings, especially on this 5-year anniversary. If you had told me I'd be where I am today, talking to you, got off a flight to Sydney, big client today. Then I had an hour meeting with Nat Cook before this, who's the Olympic, gold medal winner from 2000 Olympics. I'm very blessed, and I've got Martin Luther King looking over my back shoulder there, so he's keeping an eye on me. But yeah, just trying now. My psych always says, Clint, you're a million miles an hour. I always have been. Yeah. My mother used to tell me, slow down, Clint. You've seen me cricket field. You've seen me. That's just the way I'm wired, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. But what my psych talks through, what Auntie Carmel says to me, Clint, you've got to have your decompression time. You've got to decompress, and that we've got a beautiful teardrop camper. We go down to Jack Thompson's and camp there on his beautiful property in Woolgoolga, and that's Martina and my little decompression chamber. So it's a big area I'm still trying to continually work on, because we could all be gone tomorrow. Eggs.
Yeah, well, that's right. You never know what's going to happen, do you? So,
yep.
Quickly, how has technology affected the way we get away from work? Like, there's a lot of employers that, or people at work, they don't have a second thought with calling someone up on the mobile phone if they're away or whatever.
Look, I've embraced AI. No different to I embraced the email that replaced the fax machine.
Yeah.
I embraced an Excel spreadsheet that replaced the 18-column manual bookkeeping systems I was using, when I first started work. I've embraced, I was a Crackberry man, the iPhone, I'm addicted to it.
Yeah.
Tech's one of those things, right? Definitely AI has opened up a whole new realm in, the research field and that type of stuff. It won't, I want to create grey AI. So you've got, that human intelligence that you must still use with your AI.
Yeah. No.
But look, Eggs, I worry. I just really worry when I see the effect of social media on our kids, and we've got a 13-year-old. When I go to Dubai or Indonesia, I'm told that you're unable to access pornography sites.
Yeah.
There's, why can't we do that here for young people? Why can't we have, I don't know. I'll get, but this social media, I knew when I first had my first girlfriend, her father was Greek, and I had to call her once a night. And I think he answered the phone. What do you want to talk? Who do you want to talk to? And I said, well, I'd love to talk to Kathy. He goes, why? And I love Johnny D, I'll call him. He goes, you've got 2 minutes, and that was it.
Yeah.
Whereas now this text messaging, this, having mates who, we've all been there, going through heartbreaks. I'll just send another text. I'll send another text. I'll send another text. Like, mate, that's near on stalking, Hoff.
It's non-stop, isn't it? It really is.
So I just think those type of things. I've got a 40-second delay now on my email.
Yeah.
Because I'll send, and geez, did I see the right person? Did I do this? So has my life come down to a 40-second delay, or should I think about it before I send it?
Yeah, no, well, exactly. Okay, so we'll finish off with a couple of last three questions. What is success to you, and how's it changed over the years?
Oh, really good, really good question. I've always said that I'd like to die with a million stories, not $1,000,000. So
Yeah.
I think I'm close to that. I'm close to that.
There you go.
I just, it's interesting. I've got an article going up on the IF app, and it's these here are
The old
black titanium Amexes. I no longer have one, and I think my life's better for it. I get the shits every now and again because, when I nearly went bankrupt, lost everything as a result of what happened 5 years ago. Amex and the tax office are the ones you got to watch out for. So, but I've still got them.
Still got them.
And it's not a concert I couldn't get into. There's not a restaurant I couldn't dine at. The Amex black cards. But I'm getting my mate Wayne Miles to frame them in my old Fin Review photo with a big buffalo head on the top, and it's going to be called Ego.
Ah, okay.
And if you need it, break glass type stuff.
Yeah.
So, I think coming from, my mum still lives in Housing Commission House. We bought in Wallagi.
Yeah.
And I think what I thought success was, you're Ernst and Young, you're working in New York, you're playing cricket in England, you're having all these. But at the end of the day, I think success, there's a couple of family members I'm not talking to. One, it's very difficult to. But that's the bit that troubles me. I don't want conflict. I've had a lot of conflict in my life, and I'm probably the person who's caused some of it. Just want a really simple life where you can count your blessings and you're doing good things. My dad always said the definition of happiness is someone to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. That's probably success.
Pretty simple, isn't it? Yeah.
I reckon I've got the three of them.
I like the stories. As long as you've got stories to tell, that's all that matters, isn't it? Really.
Exactly.
Okay. Money by happiness.
Look, it helps.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy when I finally got to Martina and I finally got to buy a jet ski, and I was out on Australia Island the other day. I was happy.
Yeah.
But it's not a $600,000 boat. It's not a. So it definitely doesn't. But I think what isn't earned isn't valued. So if you've earned your money doing good things, I think that's a bit different.
Yeah.
And you spread the love, and when I went through my troubles, I had two blokes drop an equal amount of money, a large sum of money, into my bank account without me knowing. They both had my bank account details for different reasons. And, it took me about 2.5 years to pay them back. They weren't hassling me.
Yeah.
But, that, it's the conundrum, right? It's the difficult one to answer. But I think if you're earning your money doing good things, enjoy the rewards of it, and if that's happiness, but keep a lid on it.
Yeah, I think it's peace of mind. It brings you peace of mind more than anything. Just knowing that your bills are paid, and
yep,
you don't have to worry about things. That's what I think it is. That's
no, I agree. And that trauma response of scarcity.
Yeah,
both myself and Martina grew up in that, and we all did. That generation. There wasn't too many rich kids just cruising around, was there? We also worked hard. Parents worked hard. We had our decent fish fingers. We was pretty good feed at my house in Wallagi. But the money trauma triggers are there, though. You're right. I shouldn't wash over that.
Yeah. And freedom. What's freedom mean to you? Or what's freedom mean to you?
Yeah, I think having travelled a lot around the world, and this time 5 years ago, I was just flying in from China. Whew. We're very lucky in Australia.
Yeah.
We're very lucky, and we've still got elements of freedom.
Yeah. There you go.
My Ukrainian brothers don't have it at the moment.
No, they don't, do they? You got a lot of shit going on over there, and mate,
Yep.
well, you as you say, you can count yourself lucky that you don't have Vladimir Putin breathing down your throat, or
Yep.
not even, just your house is still intact and
Yep.
everything like that.
Yep.
I think we're pretty well covered. Okay, so last two questions. What happens? Well, what I think you've told us this already. What happens when you start losing balance in your life?
I become very discombobulated. I start making poor decisions, be it under stress, be it just the head's not there. I might abuse the substances, had too many wines.
Bit of
The next day I get a
self-destruction.
hangover. I got a hangover, and I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
I start second guessing my decisions. And my muscle's my brain. I'm not a labourer. I'm not a carpenter. I'm not a plumber. I don't have those great skills. I'm the worst practical guy ever. So this brain up here. So I've got to try and keep that as well oiled as possible. And sometimes what we see is fun, play, relaxation, partying on, or what have you, which I did plenty of in my life. It doesn't help that.
No.
It doesn't help that functionality. So,
yeah.
Does that answer that one?
No, it does certainly. And I think we've pretty well come to the end. I think we've pretty well covered the whole balance. We've discussed the wheel of life. We've talked about the if poem. I think it's been a fantastic chat.
Well, Eggs, thank you and happy birthday, mate. Thanks for spending the time with me on your birthday. This date's always a tough one for me, and I really look forward to filling my day with really productive work, speaking to a gold medalist Olympian about some business we're looking to do together, but more specifically, talking to you on. I watched your first one of those first podcasts you did, and I just think, you've got a lovely inquiring mind. You're a very kind man. You're an if man, and you're a real gentleman. So it's just been a pleasure to, share the screen with you on your birthday, mate, and keep doing what you're doing and back yourself. And you've got a dream like the old mate in the background. Just keep doing it. You're a wonderful human being.
Thanks, Hoffy, and I will in the description of this YouTube video, I'll just put Ambrose Solutions website in there, so people, if they do want to reach out to you, can reach out to you and talk about Thinkabout, Walkabout, Driveabout, Aboutabout, and if they want information and all that sort of stuff, so they can reach out to you.
And if we just put the download code for the IF app as well in there,
yep,
as well. And mate, thank you very much.
No worries. And everyone, if you like the video, like and subscribe. But until next time, we've had a good chat, and thanks for the time, Hoffy.
My pleasure.
See you later.
Go well.